Okay, this is Junior Developer Happy Hour React30 edition. We also do AMAs with people in the industry. I've done mock interviews with people front end. I'm a front end developer, by the way. I've been, yeah, I guess I should give, since there's a lot of new people here, maybe you don't know who I am. um, uh, I'm a front end developer at a company called Strike. It's a payments app like Venmo or Cash App, but it's also interoperable with the Bitcoin network. So we're going worldwide because of that, because we can easier. We can go much faster than Cash App since we use open source global payments network that we don't have to build, that there's just open source developers building it and making it better every day. So we build on top of it. Um, I just started working there a couple months ago. I used to work at Lyft. I worked at a bunch of other companies in the Bay Area. I moved to Tulsa now. I joined Tulsa Remote. If people aren't familiar with that, it's a program. They pay people to move to Tulsa, 10,000 bucks. So
Wow.
pretty awesome deal. You don't have to do anything besides move here and stay here for a year. I mean, they would like if you volunteer and be active in the community and stuff, but it's not required. But it's pretty great community. I can share my LinkedIn if anybody else wants to connect on there. We also have a Slack called Developer Army. If people want to pop in there, I always have it open if you got questions. There's a channel in there called React30 where I post all the recordings, and if people have questions later on, that's a good place to ask. Like if like you think of a question after we're done, or like you try and do it by yourself, what we do, um, you can always go in the Slack and just that's the best place to ask questions. So we've been doing this JavaScript 30. I don't know if people have done it before. I hope so. If not, I recommend at least watching the video that because we don't watch the video together. I just open a code sandbox and we just start hacking. Uh, I usually purposely don't do the exercise before because I want people to see like my thought process.
Oh, that's
Sometimes
cool. Yeah.
sometimes I'm just doing it. I mean, I did Google stuff. I watched a video earlier today and I Googled like some things in advance, but I purposely don't try it out. I rather do it live with people just to, so I think of ideas how I want to solve it in my head, but I don't like um, do it before the meetup. That's how we've been doing it, at least for now. So far, people seem to like it. Sometimes if people want to jump in, we use code sandbox. I'll give you the link in a minute once I create it. And code sandbox it has a collaborative coding editor so that other people can jump in and we can do mob programming. So sometimes we do that. We just like, some people will do one task while somebody else does another task after we like plan something out, or some weeks I just do it. It depends how people are feeling. Sometimes people rather just watch how like I do it, but sometimes people want to try some of their ideas. So we'll see how it goes. So yeah, and just to explain more about JavaScript 30, I highly recommend it. Every time, so I've been a developer for uh, 8 years now, and I kind of started out doing Ruby on Rails full stack, and then eventually, like after maybe my second or third year, I started like just focusing on the front end.
Mhm.
Just that just happened because the companies I was at needed more help on the front end, and then
Hmm.
I actually enjoyed doing it, so I just got deeper and deeper and deeper into front end, and now I mostly just do front end. Um, but whenever I went into interviews, I would always like at least watch all these videos again, just to have it fresh in my mind because it goes over a lot of the like fundamental web APIs and stuff like that. So it's good just to have a refresh of like what's available and what's out there, because when you get a front end practical interview, you never know like what they're gonna ask you to make. And it might be like, maybe at my last job, I never used like the Canvas API. And like, if I watch this, at least I remember, oh yeah, I can probably use that to like do this coding challenge. Or if there's like some cool like Flexbox or JavaScript jump kit or CSS cool things, it's always helped me to go through this, because Wes Boss did a good job of like coming up with exercises that cover a lot of like things that you just get for free from the web APIs that a lot of people don't know. They just automatically reach for like libraries and stuff, when you can just keep it simple a lot of the time and just use what's built into the browser. Which tonight we are going to use something that's built into the browser that I've never actually used before. I just found it when I was Googling. And so we're going to do the challenge different than West Boss. For people that saw this slide in on Scroll, for one thing, we're doing it all in React, just because React's fun, and like a lot of new people who go into boot camps and stuff, they're learning React. So it's kind of fun to like take a vanilla JavaScript challenge and be like, okay, how would I do that if I was doing this in React? Because in the real world on the job, in my experience, rarely you're doing like vanilla JavaScript now when you're building.
Yeah.
All the teams I've been on is React JS, but that's Bay Area. Bay Area is like really like all the tech companies there, is React is the most popular by far in the Bay Area.
Yeah, that's my impression just from looking around.
Yeah, and it's fun. I like it a lot. Ever since React came out, like I started having a lot more fun. I used to do a lot of Backbone JS, Marionette JS, which is built on Backbone. And then when React came out, it was like, and before that, I did like jQuery, a lot of jQuery. And when React came out, it just made things a lot more fun, just building apps. And speed also picks up. I can build apps way faster with React, and or fixing bugs or anything is just a lot easier with React than the older frameworks that were popular when I was starting in like 2013, 2014. Okay, so that's a lot of information. Any quick questions before we get started? If not, and then I'll just do a little bit and stop for questions. That's at least how we usually do it, but it's really informal. I mean, like there's only 5 of us here tonight, so you can always just stop and ask questions. If you're shy, you can just type in the chat. Whatever. It's pretty informal. Okay, so first thing is the Code Sandbox. If people have never used Code Sandbox, you can sign in with GitHub, but I'll give you the link. So I like Code Sandbox because it has a nice code editor, and there's a lot of good examples that you can just fork. And then it's super easy to like just add in dependencies and stuff. It's good for what we're doing, which is just like prototyping and like hacking on ideas. That's mainly what we do at this meetup. We're not like trying to write production code or anything. We're just like playing around and like see like, how could we do this in React, and play around with a bunch of different ideas. So we use React, and it gives you like this boilerplate React file, and then I can drop this link in the chat if anybody wants to come to the live editor. It's probably clearer than watching the screen share if you go to the link that I put in the chat. And let's see, usually I start, but yeah, you're not required to come here. You can just watch the screen share. You can do whatever you want. Some people fork it and just try to do it at the same time when I'm doing it. Whatever you want to do. And then I'll give you the link for the starter code. I start this GitHub repo. This is Wes Boss's repo with all the JavaScript 30 challenges. So he gives you the starter code and the finished code. So you like, if you want, you can just start with the finished code and just inspect like how he does it. Like just pretty much do whatever you want. But for what we're doing, usually I start with the CSS because that's the easiest thing to copy over. Sometimes we do like we've done experimented with styled components because people wanted to see how to do that. We've done CSS modules because people wanted to see how to do that. But usually we just keep it simple and we just chuck it all into the CSS. We just have a global CSS file because, like I said, we're not doing production code. We're just playing around. So WestBoss gives us a bunch of CSS to just make it look nice. And then, so first you usually start with CSS. And then I'm gonna ignore his JavaScript because for people who watch the video, he does a technique where you listen for the scroll event and then you debounce that. For people not familiar with debouncing, it's like when you're going to execute a function a lot of times, sometimes that will cause the browser to not like you because you're executing things too much, and it might like not look nice when you're scrolling. So especially scrolling, you need to like debounce or throttle. And usually you can just use debounce from the Lodash library. I think most people in a project, most likely Lodash is the first thing you install in like the library. It's just a lot of utility functions that everybody uses. One is debounce. I do recommend learning how to write it from scratch like Wes Boss did here. But anyways, we don't need to use this because the browser has a new API. I found it because I Googled what we're doing, how to check if a DOM element is visible in the DOM. For those who didn't watch the video, slide in on scroll is just scrolling the page and the images slide in. It's kind of like what this page does, like this, but with images. So in the real world, if I was doing this, I would probably just use this dependency, this React reveal. Like if I had a project and it was like, can you fade in the pictures like from the side when you're scrolling? I would just go here and I would just npm install this React reveal thing. But that's too easy. So we're gonna make this component at least like a simple version of it. So we're gonna make this fade component so that when you scroll, it does what this page did. But we're gonna try and do it with this. I read the page, it looks like it should work. I played around in the console, it looks like it should work. I didn't actually try it with our exercise, but I think it will work. So I don't know if anybody ever used this before. It's kind of new. And if you read this whole thing, it kind of describes that a use case for it is what we're doing, like to lazy load like images or, and it describes how before you had to like listen for the scroll event and then debounce or throttle that. And then you can like do some calculations to figure if it's in the viewport. But this thing does it in a more intelligent way to figure out if, I don't know how it does it, but it says it's more intelligent. Like it tells you right here, it's good for like lazy loading images and stuff like that. So that maybe you can just load the images as the user's scrolling. Because like if you have a site and it has like hundreds of images on it, I don't know if you ever tried to do that before, but if you're on a crappy internet connection, it can slow down the like loading of the website, which might not be acceptable for like, depending on what you're building or who the client is or whatever. So one solution to that is like people lazy load the images so that you don't need to load the images on the page unless you think the user's like heading toward the images. Like say the page was like super long, then you can be like, once the user starts scrolling and they get closer to the image, then you load the images. Then the page should be like smoother There's all kinds of techniques like that. But for today's thing, Wes Boss's thing, his is more not lazy loading, because we're gonna do it like how he did it. We're not gonna improve performance and lazy load it. It's just making it look fancy so that the things like slide in as you're like scrolling, which some people
Yeah,
don't
it's
like.
just a visual effect, right?
Yeah, some people don't like that fancy kind of stuff, but like you'll see it on a lot of sites, and it's just good to, you never know when you're gonna have to do that. So let's copy over the HTML, and then we'll kind of like figure out how to reactify the code. And once I get all the starter code, I'll stop for questions again, because that was a lot of information. Okay, so let's see. What does it not like in that line? Closing tag. Oh, the images. So in Code Sandbox, it doesn't like the if you have any self-closing tags that don't have that self-closing tag. So Westboss, a lot of his vanilla HTML, it doesn't have that, and it when you copy it straight over, there must be an image tag here somewhere. Let's see. What does it not like about that line? Let's just take it out. That's just words. So, so it is showing up now. So it doesn't like this. This should be class name. That's why in React. So some common things that when we copy over from
JSX.
Yeah. So it doesn't like something else in here. Must have an alt prop. So it's just complaining about accessibility issues. That's just a linter. So we can fix that later. I just wanted to get rid of the errors. Let's make sure all the errors went away. I like to make sure we're at a clean start before we start adding on new things. I missed the class somewhere. Where? Oh, up here. So you can see there's no more errors, but like when you scroll, the images aren't sliding in, because what Westboss does, if you look at the CSS, he, like all the ones with the align left class on it, he like moved it off the page to the left, so that when you scroll, it should like slide in from the left, and the ones on the right, he like moved it off the screen, and then that's what this translate 30% is. He also scaled it down a little bit, so like it kind of, and he also changes the opacity. It's 0 to 1, so there's like all kinds of things happening when it slides in. It's gonna grow a little, the opacity is gonna fade in, and it's gonna slide in. So it's like 3 different effects. I'm thinking we just call the component fade, just like this one, because this one kind of does the same thing. I can put this in the chat too if people never used this library before. So it's kind of similar. Like when you scroll, it just kind of slides and fades in, kind of what Westboss does. So Westboss gave us a lot of the starter code. Okay, before I go any further, I was just talking for like a lot. Does anybody have any questions about anything that I just said? Nope. Okay. Well, usually we just type everything in the same file, just makes it easier than like making a separate component file, just so everybody can just like look. I'll just make the components all in the same file. It's just easier. So I was looking at this. I wanted to copy this API where I just make a fade component and you either put left or you put right. Right means it comes in from the right. Left means it comes in from the left. So let's just copy. When I'm building APIs for a component, a lot of times I'll go look for how popular libraries, what do they name the like props? What kind of props do they pass in? And I kind of just like, sometimes if I like it, I'll just model my API and copy the prop names or even copy the component name sometimes if it's like similar. So usually I'll go and I'll look for like how other people do it first. Because naming is one of the hard things, right? I'm not good at it, definitely. So
Yeah.
I like to look how other people are doing. So let's just call it fade. We'll just make this component. And then since we're not using TypeScript, I try to keep things easy, not introduce too many things because some people are like really new. So I don't want to include like TypeScript and styled components and all kinds of stuff. So I try to keep it simple, but we should at least do like the minimal amount of type checking because it's pretty important. It saved me a lot in my career, just having at least simple type checking. So there's a library called prop types. Probably seen it before. I think it's like in the React docs and stuff. So the cool thing about Code Sandbox is you can just type the dependency and then you can just click this button to like install the dependency, or you can like type it here, but I like to click this button because it just installs it for you. It's easy.
Wow. That's easy.
So if we look at the fade, I'm thinking we need a left and we need a right and we need children, right? Because we're gonna put the image as the child. At least that's my thought. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna wrap this image with this fade component. I'm gonna move these classes like into the fade component, and then we'll try copy pasta this hook. So I don't know what level people are here, if you even know what hooks are.
Yeah,
Hooks
I'm familiar with hooks.
Okay, awesome. It's kind of hard with these meetups because sometimes there's like a wide range of people with
Right. Yeah.
all different skills. So there's this hook, it's called use on screen. If people are familiar with this React use library, it has a lot of popular hooks in it. I found another hook, but let's just build it instead of using this library because we can, it looks like we can just copy pasta most of this code. So we can try to do that, but I can give you the link for this too. This library has a bunch of like cool utility hooks if people have never seen it. A lot of like, there's like a use debounce thing to use local storage is pretty helpful. There's a lot of stuff in here. So first let's do the types. I like to start with the types. So fade prop types. So I like to design the interface of what I'm building. Like if it's clear, like sometimes it's not clear like what props you're gonna pass in, but like we're modeling it after this other component. So we kind of have an idea. So we're gonna need not left. Oh yeah, left. So that's gonna be prop types dot bool. Right, prop types dot bool and children, which is prop types dot what is that, node, I think. So let's not worry about like if they're required or not, and we're not going to consider all kinds of edge cases like what if they don't pass this in, or if they just pass this in. We're just going to make it work or try and make it work. Usually we get things to work. Sometimes we don't finish the whole challenge, but so left, right, children, And then in here, just go return. Let's see. I guess we can just wrap it in a div. We'll see. And then the children will go inside. And then this is gonna be, we're gonna move some of these class names since we're gonna just reuse what WestBoss gave us, but like we're gonna apply left if they pass in that left prop, if that value is true, then we're gonna add that class. If they pass in right, then we're gonna add the right class. I'm not gonna consider the edge case where they pass in left and right though, because I just want to keep it simple. So to make that easier, there's this other package called class names that is super popular for when you have like optional class names, or it's good for like when you have like, it will just be like, if it's false, then it won't add that class name to the component. So it's just a way to create the string of class names and make it nice so that you can have booleans and you don't need to like check if it's undefined and all kinds of stuff. So there's a popular library. We used it in the previous weeks. As you can see, it has 7 million downloads a week. So it's a pretty popular library. So let's just do, let's just import that. Do import class. Oops. Class names. Let's do that. So then if we look at the docs, we can do class names, and then so we can do class name equals class names, and then all of them are gonna have this slide in. So we can do, let's see, just slide in, and then the rest are objects. So slide in. And then we have, what is it? Align left. If left, and then we have align right. If the, so now let's make sure there's no errors. Okay, and I think that's it for now. We still got to do the hook part, but like let's try and just like manually put like left onto the thing and see if it like works. So like here, if I do like fade left, oh, it's not gonna have, I'm missing one more thing though. I need the active part. So then we can get rid of all this stuff. Let's make the linter happy, and let's just say why is it not like, you don't need the word image photo. Oh, it's being really picky. Let's just leave it off. Okay, so before we add it in, we also forgot one other piece. So if it has left or right, we also let's also put in active for now. Like that's active is going to be added when we do that. Only if it's in the viewport, then we're going to add the active class onto it. So I'm going to just add it on by default, just so we can see if this fade in thing works. And it did. You saw how it like came in. So I'm just I'm just testing my hypothesis. It's kind of hard to see it because we did see it happen though. Like if I take this off, hot reloading should show it, see it went off. And then, so I always like I was thinking the solution in my head and I'm like hard coding the solution first before I go forward, just to make sure my idea is like actually works. Cause sometimes I think of stuff in my brain that doesn't actually work, you know. Even though I've been doing this for 8 years, like there's an endless amount of things to learn and you just forget, like if you never did stuff like this in a while. Like you'll work on projects that work on specific things and then like you forget everything you did before. And then you come back and then you just be like, how do I fade in the picture? I forget. But the React ecosystem is so awesome. There's most likely a dependency that you can just download and figure out how to use. So let's clean this stuff up because I think my idea works. We just got to figure out when to add on that active class. So let's just fix all these things first. So we just copied that library's API. It seems pretty nice to me. I don't know what everybody else thinks. Let's see. So that was fade right. And then we got 2 more. This one's left. I think this is the last one. Okay, so now we got all the things. They're not coming in yet because we got to fade it in when it comes into the viewport. And the way that Wes Boss did it, he didn't fade it in like right when it comes into the viewport. He had it like when it was like halfway into the pictures, then it fades in. So let's do the same thing. This intersection observer has this threshold, and I think it says right here, I think if you just set it to 50%, then it will have the same effect that Wes Boss did it in. But he did it a much more complicated way. He had to like, because he's listening for the scroll and then he had to calculate like how big the picture is and then like the top and then subtract and divide by 2. But if you just use this intersection observer, you just got to pass a variable. It looks like that says the threshold is 0.5. So again, let me stop. Are there any questions about this component that I made that I'm kind of just modeling off of this? It's like a simple version of that probably. Any questions? No. Okay. So I'm gonna copy this. We'll change it a little bit. So function. So let's just put it up here. So use on screen. It's complaining because we need some of this stuff. State, use effect. So this, I don't know why it's out here. I should probably go inside. So one thing to note though is that this intersection observer is pretty new. It seems to have pretty wide browser support, but it doesn't work in Internet Explorer. So if you were working in an app that needed to support Internet Explorer, which would suck, by the way, I'm lucky. I've worked at companies where they'd be like, no, we don't need to support Internet Explorer. Then you wouldn't be able to use this. You would have to do the way West Boss listens to the scroll event and then calculates if he manually calculates to figure if it's in the viewport rather than using this this web API that just tells you if it's in the viewport. Let's see. So I'm gonna ignore that too. So it's complaining that I'm using ref inside of the use effect, and you can get weird bugs if you do that, but we're gonna just ignore that for now. Because like I said, we're just playing around with stuff and we're not considering all these like edge cases. So let's see. So we got that. So let's do this. Let's also disconnect it after setting it. Because like once it scrolls in, we don't want it to observe already. We'll just kill the observer so that once it fades in, that's it. If it looks kind of janky to me, like if you scroll down and it fades in and then it goes away, and then when you scroll back up, it fades in again. West Boss, his solution actually does that, and I don't like it. I like it better with this like React reveal, where after it fades in, you scroll back up, it doesn't move anymore. It only does it
there.
like, I like that better. So let's just disconnect this. So we got this use screen. So I'm hoping this works. Let's see. So then he had it. So you got ref, use ref is visible. So we'll do something similar like this. Just copy this. Stack Overflow. This great website. So we got to put the ref on here. So now remember I said I want to add the active if active if let's call this active is active. Is visible works. Let's just call it is visible, makes sense. So if it's visible, then we're gonna add on the active class. Let's see if that actually works. No, it doesn't. Let me see. What went wrong? So let's see. The current. So something didn't work. Let's see. Console.log is visible. See, I told you sometimes what I have in my head doesn't actually work. So it's false. It's not registering it. So let's see if it's even getting into here. Or maybe there's a reason why he put this outside here. So let's do a little debugging. And I'm gonna comment this out for now just to make sure. Oh, that was breaking it. Let's see. Oh, I was over engineering it. So that's a lesson for you. Don't try to optimize for performance.
Too soon.
Yeah. So for some reason, oh, it must be because when React does like a set, it's not synchronous. It batches it up. So maybe, I don't know why it's doing that, but let's just take it out. I mean, if we were doing this for real, I'd have to sit down and figure out why that doesn't work. But this is good enough. This is saying it's still cleaning up because the use effect when this component like, so right now we're only doing this on mount. So when the component unmounts, it's gonna like disconnect the observer. So you shouldn't have a memory leak. Like this is to clean it up so you don't have a memory leak in your app. So just to explain a little, because I read this whole page already today, and I did not put in the threshold. So let's do that. Maybe it'll look a little nicer, because right now, if we look, it's like coming in before I'm halfway down. Like, let's do that again. See it, like right when I go on it, the picture's sliding in.
Yeah, right as it comes up above the bottom.
Yeah, because I forgot the threshold. So you can pass in options. So let's see where. So this first one is the callback, and then the second is options. I think it's 0.5. So now if I do it, see it doesn't come in, and then boom, as like when I get halfway down, then it slides in, which is how West Boss did it.
Yeah.
So it's doing the thing I don't like though. So maybe we
when
should
you go back.
We should, yeah, because I wanted to disconnect it as soon as
Yeah.
as soon as I think I know how I can fix that. But like, let me stop for questions, because this depending on your level, it might be like hard to wrap your head around. But I can explain this part real quick. Like if it will make more sense. Let me just link this. If you just go and you read this page, because it made more sense after I read that page. Basically,
Yeah,
this.
I don't know about other people. For me, the whole intersection observer thing is kind of above my head at this point, but I'm just gonna wait and go read this page.
Yeah, you might
afterward.
have to just play around with it too. I'm gonna post the video, and then if you need the links, just come in the Slack and I can give you the link if you don't save the link.
Cool.
But like this intersection observer, once you observe like a DOM element, so in React, we grab DOM elements with the refs. So you can observe an element, and by default, it will like trigger this callback once that thing is visible inside of the viewport. You can also specify like a specific, like if you're scrolling within like a specific element, you can say when it's in view in that like div or whatever, because like maybe you're doing infinite scrolling or something like that. Then you can do it like that. But by default, if you don't tell it anything, it will trigger the callback when it gets visible in the viewport. So it's a common problem that comes up a lot. Like you want to do something only when something's like visible in the viewport. Maybe it's like an expensive calculation or something, and like you just waste resources if you're doing all this JavaScript and those things. The user's not even looking at those things, you know. So
yeah.
But like this, you only want to do it when it's visible, because you want the user to see it slide onto the screen. So that's like a good use case for this intersection observer. And basically you can set an array of thresholds. So like we just put one threshold, but you can have it trigger the callback at different thresholds. And that's why it's an array. It would, like if you put 5 thresholds, it would have 5 entries. We only have 1, so I only care about the first thing in the array. So I'm destructuring it, and I'm saying it gives me this Boolean flag when this triggers, and then it tells me if it's intersecting. See, like it's like here we can see that if I go like this. Oh, I stopped. I should console log it so you can see. I'll console log the whole entry so you can see. Let's go back to the top. So you can see So yeah, it doesn't get triggered only when what do you call, when it gets into the viewport. I guess it triggers like as you scroll. I don't know I don't know what the algorithm, how they efficiently do it, because they obviously don't, you don't see it happening a lot. So they're obviously not doing it on every, as the scroll changes, which is the
Every scroll event.
inefficient way to do it. They do it more intelligently somehow. I don't know what the spec is. But you get a bunch of information. So you can get the whole bounding client rec, which is really useful for React, because then you know how big the element is, which a lot of times like you can do that to like, if you want to make text that's like dynamic and it gets bigger to fill up the whole space, or it gets smaller, you could use this like to figure out how big to make the text. But mostly we just want to do is intersecting. Oh, I don't know what is visible is, but so we're just setting this is intersecting to true. Oh, that's how we can do. We can do if entry that is intersecting. So once it's true, then we can disconnect the observer. That's what we were doing. Like it was disconnecting it before it was true. At least that's what I think it was doing. Oh. So now once it's true, since I don't want it to like go in and out, let's see if that works. So let's see. Throw that in. I'm coming in. Yay.
Yeah, it seems to work.
So now I'm only using an observer until the images come in, and then I'm just throwing it away as soon as this
there.
equals true. I just throw it away, and the observer doesn't observe anymore.
So if you refresh the page, would then the effect happen again the one time?
Yeah, because these components unmount when you refresh the page, like they're gone. So like they're in a fresh state again. So then all the values are the default values, and now they slide in again. Okay. Yeah. So this, you don't have to do any math now with this new intersection observer. You're not going to have off by one errors, and now you can just look at this page and just use what they give you. Most of the time, you might not even need like these, like you can just use the defaults, and then you can do whatever code you want to do whenever it's intersecting. In our case, we just want to know as soon as it's visible, then we like slide it in. But like I said, in the real world, I would delete all this code and I would npm install this and I would just use that component. But it's still good to like, I learned something new. I never used this intersection observer. I probably used it in a dependency before, but I didn't know this API existed till today when I was like trying to think how to do this. Because I don't always just follow how Westboss does it. Like if I can think of a better way, because like he wrote these like years ago, I think. So this API probably came out after he made these exercises. So
yeah,
a lot of times there's newer, better ways to do it because they're constantly improving the web APIs, and JavaScript is still evolving, and
yep.
React is still evolving. So for us, like there might be new ways to do it. So yeah, any other questions about anything we did? And now we're done with the exercise. So you can ask me questions about this or just in general as well. I've been doing JavaScript and React. I've been doing React for, I don't even know how long now, 5 years. I think I've been doing React. So if people have any general questions or questions about what we did, if not, we can just call it a night. Enjoy the holiday weekend. No questions?
So
Yeah.
you continue next Sunday, you'll do the next lesson?
So I'm gonna try. I'm gonna be in Miami next week, but
Oh, I see.
I think I'm gonna still do it because I think I get back next Sunday afternoon. So as long as my flight's not delayed, I'm probably
Mhm.
still gonna. I'm probably gonna do it. So yeah, we just go in order. So or so far we've been going in order. So next week we'll do this. That one is, it might, I don't know. Sometimes when it's just like fundamentals, like the array ones, I try to figure out how to mix in some React things into it. So we'll see what I can think of. Because like otherwise we're just console logging stuff and it's not as
Yeah.
fun. I like to like figure out how to take whatever he did and then like at least play around with some, actually do what he does, but then also figure out how to incorporate and do some React stuff. So we should be doing that one this week. And then if you want to see like, I have a playlist on my YouTube. So let's see. Let's see if I go, oh, wrong one here. This one. Okay, so this, I have a playlist for the videos. So since I don't work tomorrow, I'll probably stay up tonight. I'll probably upload tonight's video and yeah. So these are all the ones we did in the past. If you're curious about any other ones, last week's one was pretty fun. We did Konami code. I don't know if people know Konami code. That's like a video game cheat code where you press like up, up, down, down, left, right,
Oh,
BA,
yeah.
start. So we incorporated that into our app using hooks. So we made some custom hooks in order to do that. So this week and last week was like some hooks. Some weeks it's like CSS stuff. It's all different. The canvas one was pretty fun. I don't know. You can just go and check it out. And if people are curious about and they've never been to our AMAs, that's on, I host the AMAs with Brady Merkel. So they're all on her YouTube. If you want to see, we've had awesome guests. So if you want to browse like who we've had on, we've been lucky to have like some really awesome people from a lot of companies, from developers to founders to designers. Or actually, I don't know if we had a designer. We had product managers. I don't think we had a designer yet. We got to get a designer on. But yeah, we've had people from Google, GitHub, Netflix, people straight out of boot camp who were able to get a job. So like, we like to get them to come on because like a lot of people graduating boot camps, like it's hard to get your first job in tech. It doesn't matter if you get a computer science degree, a boot camp, self-taught. Just getting your foot in the door is just hard. So that's why we started this meetup, to give people tips like what worked for us. And you can try it out because different things work for different people, right? Like for me, I've never really applied for jobs. I always just did lots of hackathons and went to meetups and volunteered like a lot. And I just built up a network by doing that. And opportunities just arose from just all those people that I met. And like they knew I could build stuff because I was at the meetups and hackathons. And I was
Mhm.
building stuff and they were on my team, or like I was volunteering and teaching them how to build stuff. So um, that's why I like that approach better, because you meet all these people and they know you can do stuff because they've seen you build stuff. So they feel better recommending you to opportunities, I think, when they like
Yeah, that
they
sounds really good. Much
they know
better
you can
than
build stuff.
the really
Yeah,
stressful way of just focusing on interviewing.
and like code applying and stuff is hard because there's like hundreds, maybe thousands of people applying for that job, right? And it's hard.
Yeah.
Your resume might not even get looked at. They gotta just like look at it like really fast, and there's like unconscious bias when depending who's looking at it, depending what mood they're in when they're looking at it.
Mhm.
Um, so it's just easier, in my opinion, to like network and learn in public. I always recommend to everybody. But like I said, we've had like different guests, like this guy Stephen Inoue. He did a shotgun blast. He went to 3 boot camps and now he works at Google. Like he just kept going to boot camps until like he was like, okay, now I get it. Now I can build stuff. Um, then he worked at us. Then he just went hard. He worked at a smaller startup, and then he got to Google within 3 years, I think, from not knowing how to code to working
Jeez.
at Google. And if you follow him on LinkedIn now, he's like super into leak code and stuff. I'm not into that stuff. I'm more the creative side. That's why I like the front end. I like doing front end,
Mhm.
because front end to me is even like the way you organize your code. It's kind of like art to me. um, like just thinking about how to organize and what props to make it easy. I think that's like more creative side skills than doing like leak code kind of stuff. But he loves doing leak code, so he works at Google already, but he still does all the leak code challenges and stuff like that. So he's a fun person to follow on LinkedIn if people want to look him up. Um, but I met him in Hawaii when he was going to his first boot camp. So,
Oh yeah.
uh, because I give talks at boot camp. I'm giving a talk at a boot camp tomorrow. I don't know if there's any boot camp people here. Maybe I'm talking at your boot camp. I'm talking at Rhythm School tomorrow. Um, I, I always talk to their students when they're like graduating, just tell my story about how I got here to where I am, because it's a difficult journey. And I took a very non-traditional path. Even though I do have a computer science degree, the story of how I got here is very long. I didn't get a job after I got my computer science degree. I didn't get into the industry until 11 years after I got my.
Oh,
So it took me, people like complain or they get really depressed about not getting a job after like 1 year after learning how to code. It took me 11 years to break into the industry. But it wasn't me constantly trying for 11 years. I just stopped coding, which is a big mistake. I gave up too easily. Uh,
yeah, that's a little bit similar to me. I mean, I worked as a software developer like back in the 90s, early 90s. And then I got, for various reasons, got discouraged and frustrated and stopped and left. And now here it is. I don't even want to think how many years later I'm trying to get back to it.
it's never too late to get back into it. Now
That's
the
what people
internet
say. I hope
has
it's true.
the internet has so many resources now. Look, like we're
That's
this kind
true.
of
That is
thing.
very different now than back then.
This this kind of meetup did not exist in the 90s. Where you could just on a Sunday go on
Yeah.
meetup.com and code with other people.
Yeah, definitely not.
And like there's so much free resources. Free Code Camp is really awesome. Um, and then if you want to pay for stuff, I like Front End Masters a lot. Egghead.io is those are two that I subscribe to. I watch a
Front end
lot.
masters, huh?
Yeah, Front End Masters is great. It's super good. You gotta find the instructors that you like though, because there's so much content on Front End Masters.
I see.
You the way
Well, I've
I do it
seen
is,
a couple of things by Kent Dodds, and I liked
oh yeah,
him.
Kent C. Dodds is awesome. He has some stuff on there, but he stopped doing them, so his stuff is kind of old on Front End Masters.
Mm.
He has his own. He launched his own like site. So I haven't. It's all paid stuff, so I haven't bought any of his stuff. I bought one of Wes Boss's paid courses. It's pretty good. I like Wes Boss a lot. I mean, that's why we're doing JavaScript 30, because I think this, I think this course is super awesome.
Yeah, his name keeps coming up to me all over the place, and so this is the first actual set of
He has a,
exercises by him that I'm going to go through. So.
he has another. Even the CSS grid one is free. Is good too. He has a bunch of free courses. And this is the one I paid for. It was on Black Friday. So it was like $60 on Black Friday, and I just bought it. I didn't even watch the whole thing yet, but I'm working my way through it. I'm not using GraphQL now. That's why I haven't been watching it. I was working at Lyft, and we use GraphQL at Lyft. That's part of the reason why I bought it. But I quit Lyft in December, and oh yeah, I can give you the Tulsa remote link if anybody's interested. It makes life a little easier because Tulsa's super cheap. At least for me, coming from the Bay Area, I cut my living expenses almost in half,
Oh my gosh.
and they give me $10,000. So
Wow.
you don't have to stress as much. Like when you're learning the code, you might be like strapped for cash,
Yeah.
because you don't have a income,
Yeah.
or it's at least easier if you just focus on learning and you don't have to do like some full-time job that you don't even like doing just to pay rent and stuff. Tulsa Remote is a good way to like help you focus on doing whatever you want to do.
Coding.
Or like if you already got your first job, it's really good, and then your job is remote. Tulsa Remote is perfect because even when you get your first job in tech, there's still so much more to learn. Like I feel like my first few years, I just had to learn so much that it would have helped to have extra income. Like I could have took like I had really low paying jobs when I didn't get a 6-figure job like out the gate, like which some people had expectations like that's gonna be their first job.
Yeah.
I didn't have expectations like that. I was like, just give me any job. I don't care how much you pay. I just want to get my foot in the door. So, like I said, people have different strategies. Like some people they want to start high so that it's easier. I started super low, and I was able to just work my way up super fast. Like Lyft pays a ridiculous amount of money, so I went from $25 an hour contract, no benefits, nothing, in San Francisco, which is
Oh
extremely
my
low
gosh.
paying job, all the way to Lyft making almost like $300,000 a year. um, which I mean that's total like base stock bonus. But now I was able to scale back. I don't need to make that much money if I'm in Tulsa. Like I don't even need to make hardly any money living here. So and it's pretty good. I never thought I would live in Oklahoma. I'm from Hawaii. I lived in Bay Area for a long time. I lived in New York, so like I'm like a one of those coastal people. um, but I adapt easily, so I can live anywhere. I have also lived in West African countries. I did the Peace Corps. Um,
Oh.
so when I found Tulsa Remote, I was lucky I got in. Like it's pretty hard to get into Tulsa Remote, but I would suggest applying. And you have a better chance, I think, if you already have a remote job, though, because I think they're afraid. If you don't have a job, they pay you and you come here, and then you get a job that requires you to leave. They don't want that to happen.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I want you to
So
stay.
they prefer people who already have like a stable remote job income.
Makes sense.
But it doesn't hurt to apply, even if like I wasn't gonna work when I came here. I was gonna focus on this meetup, and I told them that, and I just had to show them like my bank statement to prove that I could like live here and I wasn't gonna bounce. Um, so they accepted me, even though, because like what I'm doing with the meetup is like would help build up the community here anyways. Like they want more developers and stuff here, you know. So if I can like um increase the amount of developers in Tulsa, that's like really good for them. So
Mhm.
but yeah, I don't know. Anybody have any other questions? No? Okay. All right, I'll see you.